Today we're going to start with talking about some definitions for different types of angles. And so we're going to start first with complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So the way that I remember this is I kind of make the C into a 9 and then the O into a 0, and then I see the 90 and say, oh, okay, that's complementary 90 degrees. So an example of this is we have a right angle and we cut it in half with another ray here. Here's one angle, here's the second angle. These two angles are what we call complementary angles. The next thing that we have is supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. And so when we talk about supplementary, I make the S into an 8 and make the U into an O and then add a little 1 in front, 180, to remind myself supplementary is 180. So it's just kind of a silly little thing, trick that I use to help me know 90 and 180. Supplementary 180, remember, is a straight line, and so we can have a straight line here, and it's cut by a ray, and so we have one angle here, and then we have another angle here, and we call these two angles supplementary angles. These two, when put together, their angle measure is 180 degrees, which is a straight line. We also have vertical angles. Vertical angles are two non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. So two non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. So I understand two intersecting lines. I get that here's a line that intersects another line, but non-adjacent may or may not be a familiar word to you. Adjacent means next to one another. So if they're non-adjacent, that means not next to each other. So in this case, vertical angles are the two that are across from each other. These two are what we call vertical angles. And then there's also another set of vertical angles here. If you look right here, this is a vertical angle with this as well. So really, if I were to go back and do this again, I would put adjacent before vertical, because here's the definition of adjacent angles. Then that would help us know the definition of vertical angles better. Adjacent angles are angles that share a common side. They're next to one another. So we could have an angle here, and then it could be, they could share this side right here, so we see these two angles are adjacent. They're next to one another. So we've got complementary angles, two angles whose sum is 90. Supplementary angles, two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. Vertical angles, two non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. And adjacent angles are angles that share a common side.